Hi there and welcome back to Lee's Play. In today's tutorial for Tomb Engine and Tomb Editor, this is lesson 4. We're going to be focusing on making rooms with multiple doors and portals in them, making swimming pool rooms, which I'm sure you guys are all waiting for, so we can actually add water to our temple and environment. And we're also going to be learning how to stack rooms vertically on top of each other, which will basically be advanced use of the 2D map view, and how to connect those stacked rooms using portals vertically. Assuming you're caught up with the tutorials, you should find yourself in the same position I am, and we're picking up where we last left off from video 3. So we have just built our waterfall temple, and we also have our outside jungle. In this video, we're really going to start building out the other areas in the Lost Valley that connect different sections of the jungle to each other. Let's jump right in and build a new room and call this Cave to Bridge Tunnel. This is going to be the tunnel that Lara is going to use to go from the temple outside out onto the bridge of the Lost Valley. I've placed the room here because if you remember, I want to connect this part of the jungle where Lara's going to climb up into the cave, out onto the bridge where she's going to collect that cogwheel. We need our room obviously to be in here because that's where the tunnel should be. This is really the first time we're making a room together where it's going to have multiple doorways. And what I mean by that is we need to make a doorway here that's going to go from the bridge out into this area of the jungle. So why don't we make a doorway here? As you can see, it's in our new room here. So we have now one doorway. And then out here, we need to make a second doorway. However, as you can see by using the draw all room buttons, the ceiling in here is not tall enough. In the last video, I gave you a quick introduction to moving the actual position of the room using the move room up and move room down button. And we're going to do the same today a lot actually, rather than lifting the floor or the ceiling. So let's press this button. And as you can see, this area where we want Lara to climb into the tunnel now is matching up with this room. Let's go back to the jungle area and select this part of the room where we want the door to the cave to be. And as you can see in our new room now, we have our two doorways that will connect Lara from this part of the jungle out onto the bridge area. When you're making a room like this, which has multiple doorways, it's a really good idea to connect the doorways first before cropping the room because you don't know what size shape you're going to need that room to be. Now that I've successfully connected the doorways, I can now go to the 2D minimap and crop it to the size I'm looking for. I may even decide to make the room larger by expanding it in the north direction. In the last video, I showed you how to grid walls, and we're going to do the same again by pressing Ctrl A, transform, and grid walls in 3 square. And as you can see, our new tunnel has evenly squared walls that will make things much quicker when we're texturing. Now feel free to shape the room in any way you want to make the aesthetic you're looking for. I have carved out the shape of the tunnel the way I want it, and now I'm going to texture it. I've just finished texturing a tunnel which will bring you from a temple out onto the bridge, and if you followed all my tutorials you should have the same skill set to do this. Up until now I've been showing you how using the set wall button allows you to make the maps more interesting by building the rooms into different shapes. However, don't forget you can also undo a set wall by clicking on a portion that is a wall and using set floor. Doing that will change it from a wall to a floor. What I'm going to build now is the area where Lara finds a secret pickup, and I'm going to do that by undoing the wall and changing it back to a floor. As you can see, this secret area is inaccessible by the waterfall, so we're going to need to raise both the ceiling and the floor. I'm making sure that the new ceiling isn't any taller than 20 tiles. By y equals to 20. And I'm going to raise this up a little bit just so that Lara can climb in there, because remember this is water and we want this to be kind of like dry land. So we obviously need to raise this up a bit, but Lara can't get stuck. And I'm just going to quickly texture it in. Right, I'm really happy with how that's looking. So yeah, just as you can set a wall, you can easily undo it by using the set floor function, and that can be just a really great way to quickly add new areas to the map if you decide to change your mind. The next area I'm going to create is the cavern where Lara can find another piece of a cogwheel and where she encounters a ferocious raptor. You should be far more familiar with the 2D map at this point and be comfortable with the idea of building away from all your other rooms. So I'm just going to go ahead and craft the environment out. The only thing I'm going to keep in mind is that my waterfall is facing south on the map. So we probably want to build that part of the cave south going north. So I'm going to build a tiny 6x4 cavern right here. And I'm going to basically start building out this little cave area that holds the cogwheel. So from what I kind of remember about this room, if you go back to 3D mode, is that right up here there was like the cogwheel, and then there was some water Lara could get out of if she swam from the waterfall. So I'm probably going to put some water down there just to remind myself. And you know, there's also like a little raptor here that Lara has to shoot and kill. Maybe I'll put a waterfall here. And I'm just going to start building the area out. Okay, so I finished texturing this room, and as you can see, it's kind of isolated on the 2D map. It's really far away from everything else. So of course we're going to create a tunnel that connects it to the jungle. Believe it or not, we actually do not have an area in the jungle where we can connect this tunnel. So what we're going to do is create a new one. I made some walls here, and what I'm going to do is change one of them into a ground floor. So let's press the set floor button, as I've shown you earlier, that changes it from a wall into a floor. I will just quickly texture it in. And now we're going to create another tunnel that connects this cavern that will have a cog piece out to the jungle by the waterfall area. I might even bring it closer. I mean, you can really do whatever you want. Right, so I'm probably going to place our cave with the cogwheel and the dinosaur raptor maybe around here. And then I'm just going to create a new tunnel that will connect that from this area out into the newly built area in the jungle. So I'm going to line it up on the 2D map like I've always have. And in this outdoor jungle area, I'm going to tell it I want a door here in the newly built area by adding a portal. And then I'm going to come inside and I'm going to go to my cog piece raptor room and add another door here. So this is our next tunnel, and as you can see, it's looking pretty darn good. I'm going to crop the room now that I know how big it should be. And I may even make it nice and small. I want this to be like a really kind of secret, tight cavern. So I'm going to do that and kind of work its way down. We kind of want this to match up. So we can probably do like maybe a few steps. Let's avoid those paper tin walls, which I've explained in previous tutorials, by building a wall there. Well, actually, this is really interesting. We know there's going to be a raptor, which is a small dinosaur, and dinosaurs typically don't climb steps. So maybe what we'll do is we'll add a slope, a really small slope that we know Lara can run up and down, because we also know the raptor can probably run up and down it as well. When you're making small tunnels, just to make life easier for yourself, they don't have to be the biggest thing ever. I mean, the bigger you make an area, the more texturing you're going to have to do. So it's really just a matter of how much you're willing to put up with. And then like I told you before, usually what I do is turn on face edit mode just so I can see what the textures look like outside, because I know to a certain extent I'm going to need to match it up on the inside. So I'll probably have to do a stone transition there. And then there's actually some grass here. So we probably will continue that along in here. Maybe we'll just do something like that. And then I kind of know that the middle of the room can be something different if I want it to be, but it needs to begin like this. In the earlier tutorials, you probably thought turning on the portals in all rooms was really handy because you can see your entire map. But now, as you can see, the map is becoming more complex with lots of tunnels and things. You can actually see how I've drawn the rooms is actually making things harder. So you can definitely turn that off so you're able to focus on the room at hand. Because we know we connected it with a door, it's going to work in game. Because there is a little raptor here, maybe I'll turn it more into like, you know, a little kind of like shelter for the dinosaur. So maybe I'll have grass. Maybe it's been eating grass all this time. And maybe I'll add this dinosaur paw print there just to kind of let the player know there may be a dinosaur in the area. Great, so as you can see, we have just built yet another tunnel, and that will connect the player from outside by the waterfall jungle where they can access the other cog piece, and there is going to be a tiny raptor that will be there eventually that Lara will have to fight. But you may notice that I put a little swimming pool here, so yes folks, the time has come. We are going to be building swimming pool rooms together in the map. First things first though, let's just rename this room so we can keep track of these tunnels. Jungle, waterfall, 2. As I've told you in lesson 2, labeling is really important, and as you can see, as our list begins to populate with different rooms, it's much easier to keep track of once we know what the rooms are and we're not guessing. The first swimming pool room we're going to make is going to be a small water tunnel that will take Lara from the waterfall out here into this cave with the cogwheel and the raptor. So we're going to make a new room. And as I said before, you've gotten very familiar with the 2D map by now. But here we're going to do something different. We're going to place this new room on top of our other rooms. So this looks pretty good. Now, if we press draw all rooms, you can see how it intersects with the other rooms already on the map. Now, if you think about water in a swimming pool, we want the swimming pool and the water to be underneath this cave here, which has the cogwheel, and this waterfall out here. So using the move room down button, we're going to press it like this. And I've already shown you how to do that, so you should be a little bit familiar. And we're going to keep pressing it until it's certainly underneath all of these rooms here. And you can really see that it's underneath. They're not touching at all. If you've been following my tutorial closely with no adjustments, for reference, the floor is equal to -12. Let's turn off the portals and go back into this room, which has the swimming pool. Let's highlight the area on the map where we'd like the swimming pool to be, and then press Add Portal. As you can see, there is now a hole in the ground, and if we turn portals on, you can see it's now leading into this new room, which will be where the swimming pool is. Let's go outside to the waterfall, and where we want the waterfall to lead to the swimming pool, let's add another portal. And as you can see, there's a hole in the ground now leading to our brand new room. Let's turn off portals for a moment so we don't get confused and face our camera towards the ceiling. Now that we know where our entry and exit points are out of the swimming pool, that tells us how we can crop it. So we can actually crop it to this perfect rectangular shape, but do feel free to crop it to any shape you need it to be as long as the doors will stay intact. Remember, you want your selection on the 2D map here to include the doors. If you select an area that doesn't include the doors, you will delete them. So make sure in this instant that the doors remain within this black square. You should see in the crop selection that your doors are there as well. And press OK. Now, if we draw the rooms, you can see we now have a tunnel that will take us from the waterfall into the new cave, like in the Lost Valley. A swimming pool room, or a room filled with water, is like any other room, and you're going to build it and texture it the same way. So I'm simply going to grid the walls really quickly and then carve out a little tunnel. You can really use your imagination, by the way. You don't have to copy it exactly the way I'm doing it, but I'm kind of imagining Lara having to do, you know, some swimming up crevices and cracks to make her way from the waterfall into this room. I'm actually going to put a wall there because just as how paper thin walls exist, also so does paper thin flooring. If you don't put a wall there, it's going to look really weird in the game. If you encountered this glitch, don't forget you can use your arrows to fix that. Lara's really gonna have her work cut out for her in this level. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with that. It's a basic shape. It's not the, it's not the most complex shape ever. But now if we turn the portals on, you can see what Lara's gonna have to swim through to make her way out here. Now, this is really important and key, is that we need to turn this into a water room so that becomes a swimming pool. To do that, in room options, make our way over to room type, press this button here and select water. And just like that, it'll turn into a swimming pool room. Now, like all your other rooms, feel free to texture it. I'm really happy with that with our pool room, and in game when Lara jumps into it, it will be water. Let's give the room a name. And congratulations, in your 4 tutorial, you have finally created your first swimming pool room. I know a lot of you, I'm sure, are very excited to do that and to see the water actually come to life in the game. So let's make a few more of them. I'm back here in my temple room and we're going to add a swimming pool so Lara can swim into it and collect another piece of the cogwheel. To do that, let's make another new room and drag it on the map over to our temple. To help visualize that you need the room to be underneath the temple, let's turn on draw all rooms so you can see that this new room here is currently on top of where the temple is. So again, using the move room down button, let's pull it down until it's below our temple. If we look at the 2D map, as you can see, our temple room has a dark blue color, and that indicates that this new room is below it. Likewise, this gray color indicates that this new room is underneath this room, which is the temple. So the coloring can really help you out in terms of telling you where a room is on the map. Alternatively, if we click on our new room, which we now moved underneath, if we look at the y-axis here on the right hand, you can see it's below the new room. Using this measurement is really going to help you out if you decide to stack rooms in your own level. For example, if you wish to build St. Francis Folly. This is going to be a critical tool for you to get used to learning. So we know where we want our swimming pool to be. Why don't we go and select the entire area and press add portal. We do that, as you can see, we actually have some holes in our map where we don't want the water to be. Well, there are several ways to remedy that. Looking at the 2D map, whenever you see a black and blue stripe, that's telling you that potentially you could have a portal there, but there's something going on in the room above it that's preventing that. So in this case, because we raised the floor, that cannot be a portal. However, because the ground is flat and matches up with this room, that's when you get this solid black color. However, as you can see, we have holes in the ground in parts of the map we don't want. There are different ways to remedy that. We could crop this room, which is where the water is going to be, but alternatively, the set wall button does come in handy because if we press that, it's going to build a wall in our swimming pool area. And as you can see, obviously, if there's a wall underneath, there cannot be anything up here. Of course, though, another thing you could do is now that we've created our doorway, is we can just simply crop the room to whatever we want it to be. So I might do that instead. Let's crop the room just to make it somewhat tidier. And as you can see, it still kept our doorway for where we want the swimming pool to be, but it's deleted the other doorway opportunities. I'm going to go ahead and match the pool room up with the geometry of the other room. I might even crop it in further like this. Let's put a wall there and a wall there. I'm going to put a wall here. But if you remember, in the Lost Valley, there's actually like a secret tunnel here that if Lara goes swimming, she can pick up another piece of the cogwheel. So we're going to copy that. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to drag this down. I'm going to actually pull this up a bit so Lara has some swimming to do. And I'm just going to make like a little tunnel for her to swim in and grab that cog piece. Don't forget in room options to set it as a water room. And now I'm going to go ahead and texture it to match up with the rest of this area. This is actually quite a simple room to texture, so I don't think I'll be here for a long while. And then because this is a special area, it is where the cog piece is, I might just change the texturing up a little bit just to tell the player they're going somewhere exciting and new. That looks pretty good to me. And then in a future tutorial, we of course will put a piece of a cog there for Lara to complete the puzzle. But as you can see, making water rooms is really quite simple. Let's give it a name. And congratulations, just like that, in a matter of clicks, you've already built your second water room in the level. One thing you may notice that we've lost is actually those water textures that we used to place, these ones. In the next tutorial, I'm going to show you how to add those as well as animate the water, but for the time being, there will be water when you load into the game to play test it. We have one more tunnel room to create, and it is not a water room, it's not a swimming pool room, although you can make it one if you want to be, if you want to get really fancy. But we need to make a tunnel that will take the player from the shooting lookout, where they can shoot the T-Rex safely, to this area under by the bridge that we created in the last tutorial and I had mentioned. What makes this a little bit more advanced is that it may overlap with this tunnel we have created here, because as you can see, this shooting lookout is almost on top of this tunnel here. In this situation, what we might do is when we create a new room, let's bring it on the 2D map over to that area. As you can see, this new room does indeed intersect with that tunnel we had created for the raptor cogpiece room. But let's just go ahead and play around and move the room up to the shootout. So if we do raise the room up like this, we do avoid it intersecting with this tunnel here. The two tunnels will be on top of each other. Quite complex. In fact, they're right on top of each other to the skin of their teeth. However, if we look over here by this entry point by the bridge, as you can see, the room is too high up and it will not connect. And obviously we cannot lower the room, because if we lower the room any further, it will intersect with this tunnel and we can't have that. What this tells us is then actually what we're going to have to do is divide the tunnel into two separate rooms and connect them with a doorway or a portal. First things first, let's connect the first entryway by the shootout in the jungle to this room here. And let's crop the room to a selection that we feel is appropriate. Now that they have to be two rooms instead of one, maybe it can be an opportunity for Lara to do some platforming and some rock climbing. So I'm going to refine my selection and crop the room. And then I'm going to make another new room and bring it over. And try to get them to match up with each other. So what we need to do then is just be really careful when we're moving this room on the 2D map to make sure we're making the right portal connections. So I raised this room up by 2 clicks, and with that I should be able to connect it to this room out here. Lovely. Well, we can kind of guess that this is where our new room is going to be in terms of size, so we can probably crop it like this. And then if we raise the roof, we can connect our other portal. This is a really interesting situation. You're now being given an option to choose which room you'd like to connect a door to. And that's because on the map, as you can see, there are indeed 2 candidates. And that's why it's so important that you label your room. So when you're making portal connections, you aren't making a mistake. Because what the tomb editor is asking you is if you want to add a doorway into this tunnel here or this tunnel up here. So thankfully with our labeling system, we know that we do not want it to connect to the Cog Raptor cave tunnel. Instead, we want it to connect to room 13, which is what we have up here. So that will make the right connection to the right room. I'm going to lower this one down. Happy enough with our selection, we can go ahead and shape the room and texture it. Don't forget, the highest ledge that Lara can climb up of is 7 clicks tall, which is this. So she would not be able to grab this ledge on her own. She's going to need something to help her, like another block. Let's label the tunnels. So this is a more complex tunnel, and as you can see by now we should be really familiar with the concept of doors, placing them adjacent to each other and also vertically by stacking rooms for water. Now that we really understand portals and doors, placing them vertically and stacking rooms, and also advanced portal placement, why don't we go ahead and continue building the exterior of the jungle? In the last tutorial, we built out this area of the jungle which has a temple and some platforming, and if you remember, we want the player to be able to climb onto the roof. So why don't we create a new room and place it over where we want the roof of the temple to be. As you can see, when we do that, it intersects, so let's raise it up with the raise room button until it's on top of the temple and the jungle like this. Select all the tiles on the 2D map and then add a portal. As you can see, we have now extended the ceiling of this jungle area. Don't forget for an outside area to enable the skybox and wind. Let's give it a name. And let's continue building. As I mentioned before, do take great care when texturing the man-made temples, as any mistakes with your texturing technique will look very noticeable. Remember, holding Alt on your keyboard allows you to steal textures where you need them. Let's texture in the roof of the temple. Since we don't want Lara interacting with the sky area, remember we kind of want our horizon to be all around it and on the roof, I'm going to add some mountains that she cannot access those areas. And I'll paint the entire ceiling in one go with texturing ceiling with invisibility. I'm going to build a mountain so Lara can't access this area. I may even apply the invisibility texture to these areas. The last area that we need to build out in this roof area is this mountain overhang that Lara can run underneath. So I finished texturing this outside exterior roof area, and if we turn the horizon on, you can kind of see how the level is going to come to shape now that we finally started building the roof. And if we move down here, you can kind of see the areas of the horizon you're going to see inside of the game. What I've done with the mountains is build them in such a way to make sure that Lara can never escape the boundaries of the map. So she'll slide off any of these mountain ranges, and she cannot access this area here. Making sure that the sky box and wind options are set on because it's outside, let's build yet another room. Let's raise it. Let's add our doorway that connects the two outside roof areas together. Again, you're going to have multiple options. We obviously want the roof. And then let's carefully make our vertical portal. We're being more careful in this situation because there are some areas underneath that could potentially become a doorway, like this secret cave area by the waterfall, that we do not want to be a doorway. So we're probably going to move it a bit slower and just carefully add our portals. Let's pay extra attention by the waterfall. That looks good to me. And let's continue to build the area out. I have just completed texturing this second roof of the exterior outside of the jungle. It was quick and sloppy, and it's not that I'm telling you to be sloppy, it's just that these are areas of the map your character will never ever access. I mean, Lara never goes up here. So because of that, all you're wanting to really do is create a visual illusion, because she'll be seeing most of this area from the ground like that, and she'll never be able to see these textures up here. The main thing is you just want your horizon texture, the invisibility on the sky, and kind of at the top of the walls, just so that it can blend easily into your horizon like that, to give the illusion that you are, of course, outside. Let's give the room a name. And of course, enable the skybox and wind. And let's create the final area, that of course will be the roof as well, and raise it up. So by now you should be really familiar with stacking rooms. Let's make our portal. Make sure we select the right portal connection. And then again, we want to do more careful placement. And the reason for that is that this will be our bridge area. So we just want to make sure we're not going to put a portal over that cave here, which we obviously need to be built up. In fact, we may even go in and apply some ground as a safety net. Okay, I'm just taking into different considerations because there will be an interactable area near the ceiling, which is of course the bridge. So I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm probably just going to make my portal now. Yeah, and I'm pretty happy with how that looks. So I'm going to go ahead and finally build out the last mountain area and texture it. I have finished texturing the final outdoor roof area. Oh no, I have not. Always make sure you don't catch your mistakes. I might just do that. Well, for the most part, it's textured. And I just paid particular care and attention around the areas the player will be interacting with, like the bridge area. So I made sure that Lara can never get out of the boundaries of the map. But like over here, you really don't have to pay too much attention when texturing. I mean, the player will never be able to see these textures, for example. I just made sure that I continued my stone pattern up. So as long as, you know, you're doing a decent job texturing, I wouldn't worry too much about the texturing of these areas. Finally, the last thing to do, of course, is to enable your skybox and wind and to label the room. We have finished the fort tutorial and we actually have accomplished a lot in this lesson. We created some really complex tunnels. We've dealt with advanced portals and door situations by stacking rooms vertically and making them more complex. We've also created our first pool rooms, or rooms with water to make swimming pools, and we even finished the exterior of the Lost Valley. So now that you can see with the horizon on, their level has really come to life. This does look like the Lost Valley from the first game. So as you can see, it looks really, really good. Why don't we go ahead and play test it and look at our new environment. Now that we've really built out the map, you can actually make Lara move faster by pressing the O key on your keyboard to activate something called a fly cheat, which helps you fly around your map faster. So as you can see, this is the new outdoor area, and as you can tell, it looks really, really good. As I mentioned before, in a future video, we will of course enable the clouds in the sky, but as you can see, it's fully outdoors and we've really built it out, and it's only going to look better as we move into the lighting tutorials in the future. But as you can see, you've accomplished all of this. We've built the entire exterior area of the temple and it looks really, really good. Why don't we go ahead and test out the water? As I mentioned, in the next tutorial, we will look at putting the water textures back onto the surfaces. But as you can see, our water tunnels are working perfectly. That's fantastic. And even the regular tunnels that we built out look really good. So the Lost Valley is looking super connected right now. Why don't we explore the more complex tunnel that we created? Where is it? There it is. And this, of course, brings us out onto the lookout of the valley. And I think it's super, super cool. Even the sunset suits this level really, really well. Let's explore the swimming area in the temple. As you can see, the graphics of 10 with the water features, it makes it look really, really good. This was the first section that we built in this tutorial, the tunnel that takes us from the temple out onto the bridge. And using the flight sheet, we can fly around really quickly. Of course, there will be a bridge there in the future. Now that we've completed the exterior areas, it's a really good opportunity to test to make sure that Lara can platform it in the way you intended. So let's make sure that the shimmy section works, which it does, and obviously we'll animate the waterfall in the next tutorial actually. Lara is going to be able to climb up in here. We're going to use the crawl feature, which wasn't in the first game, but of course in 10 she has all the animations, and we can put a little pick up here. And then of course my favorite part of the Lost Valley is climbing onto that temple. So let's make sure this is working. As you can see, Lara should be able to make this jump no problem. And of course, in a future tutorial, we'll have some pickups and activate the secret when you are on top of the temple. I think this looks really, really cool. And as you can see, the level's really starting to come together. In fact, at this point, we've built the majority of the Lost Valley. One last time, press the O key on your keyboard to activate the flight sheet. And if you hold Control down, she'll even activate a light. So in dark areas, you'll have illumination. And this allows you to fly around the map really easy. This is a really good way to check out your texturing work, to even in areas that you aren't going to be accessing. For example, we can put Lara on top of this mountain here to get better views. This is also a really great way to take some screenshots if you're a builder. So let's sum up everything we learned in tutorial 4. We learned how to make rooms with multiple doors and portal connections. We learned how to undo a set wall and set a floor instead. We focused more on the 2D map to get you more familiar and advanced with it, where you would connect rooms by tunnels. We learned how to make pool rooms, or rooms filled with water or swimming pools. And we dealt with advanced doorways and portals like multiple room candidate options. We learned a lot about vertically stacking rooms and making portals and doorways vertically. So we have really accomplished a lot in this tutorial. Now, like tutorial 2, I'm actually going to assign some homework for this one. In our very first room we built, the waterfall cave, now that you know how to make a water room and how to stack rooms, I want you to add both a swimming pool room, so a room underneath here filled with water, and a ceiling above it, using the techniques I've shown you today in this tutorial. If you found it helpful, do subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for future tutorial videos for Tomb Engine and Tomb Editor, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye.